Free Japan Channel number 92. Today, August 2nd, 2025. The time is 7 p.m. Good evening, everybody. How is your summer? Now, I'm broadcasting this FGC in Mimasaka City, Okayama Prefecture, western part of Japan. This is mountainous area, so August 7 p.m. The sky is already beginning to be dark. The wind is very cool, comfortable, midsummer, but in the evening it is very comfortable here in Mimasaka. Today's topic is Japanese history, the ambition of Nobunaga. Have you ever heard of the name Nobunaga Oda? Every Japanese knows his name. There are virtually no Japanese who don't know his name, Nobunaga's name. So famous is his name that Nobunaga still now becomes a topic of historical novel or even the game. But Nobunaga's name is not so familiar, not so popular outside Japan. Japanese experts know Nobunaga, of course, but other people in the world don't. Therefore, here, FGC, I want to introduce this person, this king, Nobunaga, to you. It was 16th century. Nobunaga was born in 1534 and he died 1582. It was assassination. He died just before he became 50. So he died in his 40s. 48, 49. He was born in Aichi district now. His family or his house was not so big. However, young Nobunaga soon grasped his territory, small territory, and the turning point of his life was the defeat of Imagawa. Imagawa was a very big lord at that time in Shizuoka district. In Shizuoka district, there was a very powerful lord called Imagawa. And this Imagawa invaded Aichi district, Nobunaga's territory. The number of warriors were approximately Imagawa 25,000, Nobunaga 2,500. Therefore, one tenth. But Nobunaga succeeded in attacking Imagawa by the raid, sudden raid. And Imagawa was so inadvertent. Imagawa was not alert against Nobunaga's attack. Nobunaga won the battle against Imagawa. It was a time that Nobunaga was still in his 20s. Then Nobunaga protected his Aichi district. Not only Aichi district, but Shizuoka district became his territory. Then he wanted to go to Kyoto because at the time Kyoto was the central part of Japan and the Japanese emperor was also in Kyoto Palace. Therefore, to go to Kyoto and to pledge emperors his protection was the sign of secular king, secular king of Japan. Nobunaga wanted to become such a king, king of Japan, not king of Aichi, not king of western part of Japan, but king of whole Japan. In order to become the king, he had to be on good terms with emperor, Japanese emperor. Japanese emperor was, and still now, has no real power, real secular power. It was only authority, religious authority or traditional authority, but authority. And secular laws or secular kings wanted to be backed up by Japanese emperors because without this emperor's authority, Japanese laws are only laws, only magnate who have perhaps some power, military power maybe, however, no legitimacy, no legitimacy. So people don't believe in his words or in his action. With the backup of emperor's approval, Japanese laws or kings could identify himself with the authority. Therefore, each king at that time, 16th century was the time of warriors, the time of warriors in Japanese history. So each king wanted to reach Kyoto or Kyoto Palace to get familiar with emperor. Nobunaga also one of the kings, and he actually paved for the way to Kyoto from Aichi. Then Nobunaga Oda was surrounded by many enemies. Of course, other kings, other lords didn't approve his advent, Nobunaga's advent in the history without any interruption. No way. Each of the kings wanted to become the Lord of Japan, of course. Therefore, Nobunaga was surrounded by many other laws, including religious entity. One by one, Nobunaga overcame this enemy, really one by one. And in 1570s, he was the top of the Lord, actually, in Japanese political reality. At the time, Lord Takeda was also very powerful and famous, and Takeda got so many territories, including Yamanashi, Nagano. However, this Takeda was defeated by Nobunaga's army, and Takeda finally become extinct. And other lord, Mori was a lord of western part of Japan, so Yamaguchi or Hiroshima. This Mori was about to be defeated by Nobunaga. It was 1582. So Nobunaga was about to grasp almost all Japan. At this time, his first subordinate, Nobunaga's first subordinate, Mitsuhide Akechi, he was entrusted the army of more than 10,000. So it's a relatively big army, isn't it? And Nobunaga was in Kyoto without any real guard. And Akechi was moving near Kyoto at that time. And Nobunaga's son, Nobutada Oda, was also there in Kyoto. So Nobunaga's father, son were both in Kyoto. And they were very careless and they were very godless at that time. 1582, June. Then Akechi was ordered by Nobunaga to join Hideyoshi. Hideyoshi was fighting at the time. Hideyoshi was fighting against Mori in the western part of Japan. And Hideyoshi was sending his plight to Nobunaga that Mori was so strong that he couldn't defeat Mori by himself. Therefore, Nobunaga ordered Akechi to join Hideyoshi, to join Hashibe Hideyoshi to defeat Mori. Therefore, Akechi was moving his army in 1582 June. Mitsuhide Akechi made use of this army. This army was, so to speak, entrusted from Nobunaga to Akechi. Therefore, it is not purely his army, but it was also Nobunaga's army. Therefore, Nobunaga was very relieved and very careless about the movement of Akechi because from Nobunaga's point of view, Akechi's army, so more than 10,000 soldiers, were his his army. Akechi made use of this army to attack Nobunaga, June. So instead of going to west to join Hideyoshi Hashiba, Mitsuhide Akechi went to Kyoto, moved his army to Kyoto, and Nobunaga was staying at Honnoji Temple at that time. So godless, Akechi was so easily able to attack Nobunaga at night. So in one night, Nobunaga and his son Nobutada both were killed by Akechi, and ambition of Nobunaga collapsed, broke down. The ambition of Nobunaga was to control Japan. Of course, Nobunaga didn't deny the authority of emperor. However, in the secular world, in the secular Japan, he was the king. He was about to become the real king who unified Japan. But at the very last moment, he was killed by Mitsuhide Akechi. And since then, there have been so many remarks, so many assertions, so many insistence why Akechi attacked his lord Nobunaga Oda. Nobody knows exactly why he did it still now. So there are so many speculations, so many inferences, so many guesses about Akechi's motivation. However, nobody knows exactly what it was. Nobunaga Oda is still now very, very popular historical figure in Japanese history. So every Japanese knows his name. Of course, um, Japanese knows his name. And his assassination by Akechi was so tragic, was so dramatic. So it is also one of the reasons of his popularity. The ambition of Nobunaga was taken over to Hideyoshi Hashiba, and Hideyoshi Hashiba finally attacked Akechi after the assassination. So Akechi couldn't live so long after the assassination of Nobunaga. So therefore, it was very futile. It was very futile for Akechi to be engaged in the assassination of Nobunaga. It was very futile because in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, Akechi was killed by Hideyoshi Hashiba's army. Then this Hideyoshi Hashiba became the Lord of Japan. He united Japan, and he ended the time of warriors of 16th century. Thank you.